Professor Nilsson is going to be late for joining us. So we are going to move directly to Professor Cohen. Hello, Professor Cohen, are you with us?
Hello, I'm with you.
We are very happy and delighted to have you today with us from Germany. So Professor Kohn is a professor of English and Applied Linguistics at University of Tübingen, Germany. His professional interests and activities generally in connection with European projects include intercultural communication, foreign language learning, and teaching English as a pedagogical lingua franca, intercultural virtual exchange and tele-collaboration, and language teacher education. Professor Kohn has published many articles. For example, his article entitled Pedagogical Lingua Franca Approach, Emancipating the Foreign Language Learners. He has more than 800 citations on ResearchGate. So, Professor Kohn, you are warmly welcome, and the floor is yours to have your presentation for 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Yeya, for your kind words. I feel greatly honored of having been invited to present my ideas about intercultural contact and communication in the EFL classroom through virtual pedagogical lingua franca immersion today to you. Let me share my presentation. Okay. Cultures travel across time and space, but they do not travel on their own. Cultures travel through intercultural contact and communication between real people. People communicate interculturally by using lingua francas. In our case, the focus is on English as a lingua franca. Now, how do they do it? How do they use their English to communicate interculturally? In order to understand this, I would like to present you a model, a social psycholinguistic speaker-focused model, a model that acknowledges speakers as responsible agents of their own communication, with their own requirements of communicative and communal success, with their own English repertoires and other means of expression, with their own capability for communication, and with their own ways of communicative performance. I'm going to deal with these constituents one by one. Requirements first. Speakers' requirements of communicative and communal success are beacons of orientation and emancipation for them. They account for the intentional nature of communication and learning. Of course, we have among these requirements understanding what is meant, being understood. These are usually mentioned. But also being fluent, showing elegance in one's style, being accurate and appropriate, making creative use of one's multilingual resources, meeting community conventions, peer group conventions, expressing cooperativity and empathetic rapport, and also complying with external requirements. External requirements in our context, of course, come from curricula and teaching objectives. But there are also these external requirements that are set by a certain communicative environment with certain speakers. These requirements the speaker entertains are the basis for their agency and speaker satisfaction. they are situation dependent, and they are adaptive. If in a certain situation I find it too difficult to meet up with a certain requirements, then maybe I change it. I lower it. The next constituent I would like to mention concerns the English repertoires of speakers have at their disposal. This brings up the essential question of how we actually acquire our English repertoires. Speakers acquire their English, well, they acquire their English quite differently from how they acquire a car or a house or a book. They acquire their English by actually creating their own version of it, based on the English they are exposed to, which is generally some kind of standard native speaker English in ELT contexts. Now this sounds arbitrary, creating their own version of it, creating their my English, but it is not arbitrary. The processes, the individual and social processes involved are guided by who they are, what they invest, what they are exposed to, and most importantly, who they want to be in English. Speakers' personal requirements of communicative and communal success function as beacons of orientation and emancipation in these processes. The next constituent concerns speakers' capability for communication. This is a notion which I have borrowed from Henry Widdowson, who it talks about capability for communication in the sense of the communicative potential of meaning encoded in the language itself. I've taken this concept and have extended it a bit further. It is important to see that speakers' capability for communication, or the qualities I'm going to talk about, help them cope with the complexities and challenges of VELF communication, and also contribute to the complexities and challenges. First of all, we have understanding between the lines and speaking between the lines with the help of contextual inferencing. Take this example, again taken from Widdowson. The phone is ringing. I'm in the bath. Okay. We perfectly understand what is going on in this exchange. We understand what the speakers are trying to convey. But what we understand and what they are trying to convey is not given explicitly with the words and structures they use. This is what I understand by reading, understanding between the lines and speaking between the lines. Contextual inferencing is basically strategic. And strategic discourse processing is all over the place. As I said, in connection with our requirements of communicative and communal success, it's communication and learning are intentional. We want to reach a certain goal, and we use strategies, strategic processing in order to get to reach a certain goal. But we can only do this if we are cooperative and if we assume that the other person is cooperative. But we can only reach this by a certain degree of empathetic rapport, by putting ourselves in the shoes of our partners. Accommodation and co-construction are the strategies that are often mentioned in the English as a lingua franca context. I said that acquiring